with this video we're gonna watch, it's talking about how, growing up, how we're raised to be seen and not heard. So I would love to kind of hear your feedback afterwards.
Ephraim, go and wash the plates.
No.
I must have not
Hey, you corrected me the first time. I said no. Every day you come in asking the same thing. Go and do this. Go and do that. Your mouth is just moving. Foom, 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 foom.
Oh, my mouth is moving.
I'm sick and tired of it.
Okay.
I'm an adult. You need to start treating me like one. This is your house. Go and do it yourself.
Okay, I see. Look at you.
Foolishness. Dad, can I come back now?
Who are you calling that? In fact, who are you? Have we met? Do I know you? Can you please state your name and age? Absolute nonsense. Don't call this number again.
I had a hard time communicating how I feel. Even in my marriage, sometimes I would bottle things up. Like, I don't know how to come and say, this is how I'm feeling, or that. I would just either be quiet or shut down. And I don't want my daughter to go through that. So I'm giving her the tools and the option to be more expressive, talk about her feelings and not feel ashamed of how she feels. And it's going to make change. I know she's not going to go through certain things that I went through. I want the best for her.
Okay. So with those two clips, definitely two different responses for them. The first one, you have this child who is talking back to his parents literally, and then of course the dad puts him in his place, like, get out of my house. And then the second one was from one of our previous events. So she was talking about how, growing up, just kind of being taught how you shouldn't maybe talk or speak up too much for yourself, to the point that it's even affecting her, currently in her marriage. I think, one of you brought this up earlier, how the way we were raised kind of influences the way we respond to people around us and our relationships and everything else like that. So I think for me, I kind of relate to what Yara was saying in the previous video. It still affects me in many ways, because I think for the longest, like up until maybe 2 or 3 years ago, it was very hard for me to speak my opinion when it comes to like my elders, if they're saying something that I don't really agree with, because I was raised in this way. You just kind of listen to whatever they say. You don't really push back or anything. It really affected me, like, in many ways, professionally, socially, my other interactions, everything else like that. So with this question, if y'all can go to the Slido, we're asking, should children be seen and not heard? So have a few responses, a few different options you can choose. And then also kind of would want to know what you all thought about the video. So I'll start with you.
I make it a point to allow my children to speak up. I think, especially my daughters, I have 2 daughters. I want them to be assertive women. And as time goes on, they'll learn when to and when to be assertive and when to just let things go. However, like I mentioned earlier, I'm trying to set the precedence at the home. Therefore, if there's any corrections, I can teach them now and provide them with the tools and the resources to be able to not feel like they always have to mute themselves or hide their feelings. Because it affected me too. It really did. Like, as I'm trying to maintain the family name and all this type of stuff, and not knowing, like, I think my life experiences have made me who I am and have made me more assertive in adulthood than I was growing up, because of the fact that I didn't know when to be assertive and when not to. And I actually didn't even know what the word assertive was at that time. But pretty much what that is being assertive, like letting it be known, like, this is what I'm going to take and what I'm not going to take, and not thinking that tolerating nonsense means strength, which, can tie into other things.
Right.
But I'll be honest, the first video triggered the African in me. Don't talk to me like that, first of all, as a child. But the reality is, when in the process of growing up, what is your definition of an appropriate time to express yourself? It's very relative. And as a child, you can't really tell. So right now with my kids, I want them to speak whenever. Speak your mind. And as we're going along, as we're growing, as we're going through this process, we will start to teach them when it's right, when it's not right, and, you know, nuances like that. But I feel like if kids have to start to calculate, you know, I have a 9 and a 10-year-old, so I don't have, you know, big kids. I'm sorry, a 9 and a 7.5-year-old, and I don't have big kids. So it's like, how do they calculate when it's appropriate, when it's the right time to speak, especially with everything going on in the world right now with kids? What is appropriate to say? So for me, whenever you're uncomfortable, whenever you have a view, I would like you to express it. And then we'll talk about the appropriateness of it. You know what I mean? But it's very important because, like I said, it definitely affected a lot of us. And I don't like to pick on the women, but specifically women as African women. We had a lot of restrictions on how we express ourselves. Personally, my dad wanted me to be assertive. My dad went to school here, so he had some different views. He always wanted me to speak my mind, but my mom was like, no, this is how women should behave. You shouldn't be so, you know, they would consider it aggressive or ill-mannered and all of that, you know. And where do you draw the line, really? When can I actually say my mind?
High sense, too much sense.
Too much sense, right? So, yeah.
All right.
Marlon, how about you?
Definitely, I think there's a fine balance because of the socio-emotional learning. You must there's like a fine balance of allowing students to be able to express themselves healthily, right? And express their feelings and being able to advocate for themselves, right? But I think what happens is that I always say it. I think that our parents think they're more advanced than they really are, and that is always seems to be the case. I think I've heard a lot of keywords: harshness, crudeness, simple, approaches, but we have to understand that is the legacy of Africa. We have to understand why things are the way they are and the cultural ties to the way they are. Your family name is your family name in the old days. Your family name would be, that would be how you would be taken, and in the community. That's how that was a way of making money. That was a way of, it's not just prestige and this and that. It's like this was how you survived because you were part of kingdoms, even if and that is, that's part of our heritage. So there's a good balance there to be had. I think that definitely encouraging kids to have that discussion, to be able to communicate openly, to be able to communicate with, context and understanding, and be able to make their mistakes and not feel that they will be chastised for it. I think that's very important. I do recognize that many of us would feel, because people have sharp mouths. They will just slice you up, and before you know it, you'll be picking up pieces of your soul from the floor. So it's very, that's the way it is. But inherently, that harshness is because a lot of what we are saying is actually true. And it's so true sometimes that we don't feel that there is a need for niceties, because this is your life we're talking about. So if we tell you, how will you go and find a husband if you are, those kind of very rough things that they say. Look at the way you are eating. I mean, don't you think it will be difficult? All the kind of rude things that they say. It's because in the end of the day, it is healthier to be less thing. But the problem is how you get there. And the journey means as much. And this is something we have to teach our African mothers and fathers, that the journey is just as important as the result. And I think that's the mistake a lot of our parents make. They're more concerned with the results, and they don't care what kind of journey or how, what the consequences are for pushing and prodding and, and making sure we are going for excellence. We are raised to be excellent. We are the most arrogant Africans in the whole world. We all know. And it's because there is such a thing as Nigerian exceptionalism. And I think that Nigerians need to talk about it like that, so we can also own it a little more and understand why we push our kids. Our kids we're simply always been more creative. For centuries, we've been more creative in arts and sciences and things like that. So to automatically feel that we need to promote that and find ways to get that out, I think is quite important. So anyway, that's where I lay on it. But I think there's a lot of work to be done. Kids have to be given that confidence to speak out, but that doesn't happen very much in military governments. So I'll let that but I'll let it go.
It all ties in, huh?
Right.